Remember Sunday dinners at your nan's house when gravy was made from the roasting tin, proper meat juices, flour, and maybe a splash of wine? When it was rich, dark, and tasted like something that took hours to create. That was real gravy, made from real ingredients. No chemicals, no stabilizers, no palm oil imported from destroyed rainforests, just honest-to-goodness meat drippings transformed into liquid gold. But walk into any British supermarket today and look at what's on those shelves. Tubs of granules packed with MSG and mystery flavourings. Stock cubes that are nearly 50% pure salt. Ready-made gravies so stuffed with emulsifiers and gelling agents they could probably survive a nuclear winter. And here's the truly shocking part. Some of these products have been recalled for metal contamination. Others have been exposed in laboratory testing for dangerously high salt levels. Yet millions of British families still buy them every single week without a second thought. Today, we're exposing the truth. We've examined recall notices, analysed ingredient lists, and reviewed scientific studies on salt content. 8 brands that are putting profit over your health. Will your Sunday roast staple make the list? Let's find out. We're starting at number 8, and trust me, this is just the beginning. Coming in at number 8, we have a brand that's been quietly sitting on supermarket shelves for decades. It's Golden Fry. Now, Golden Fry isn't necessarily dangerous. It hasn't been recalled. It hasn't been exposed in major scandals. But that's exactly the problem. This is a brand that exists in a sort of limbo. Not bad enough to be pulled from shelves, but not good enough to actually recommend. The ingredient list reads like every other mass-market gravy. Maltodextrin, palm fat, salt, caramel colouring, flavour enhancers including MSG. It's the standard formula. Nothing remarkable, nothing terrible, just thoroughly mediocre. And that's what makes it number 8. In an industry where cutting corners has become standard practice, Golden Fry represents the absolute baseline, the bare minimum effort to create something brown and savoury that you can pour over your mash. Consumer reviews tell the same story. Nobody raves about Golden Fry. Nobody says it's transformed their Sunday dinner. People buy it because it's there, because it's cheap, because they've always bought it. But mediocrity in food isn't neutral. When you choose Golden Fry, you're choosing palm oil over real ingredients. You're choosing MSG over genuine flavour. You're choosing convenience over quality. And in 2025, we deserve better than that. At number 7, we have a supermarket-owned brand that tested shockingly high in independent laboratory analysis. It's Aldi's Quick Show beef stock cubes. Now, Aldi has built its reputation on value, on giving you similar quality to the big brands for a fraction of the price. And in many product categories, they deliver on that promise, but not with gravy ingredients. When consensus action on salt and health tested stock cubes across major UK retailers, Aldi Quick Show beef stock cubes contained 5.09 grams of salt per cube. That's nearly a full teaspoon of salt in one cube. Let me put that in perspective. The NHS recommends adults consume no more than 6 grams of salt per day. One Aldi Quick Show cube gives you 85% of your entire daily allowance. Before you've even eaten your meal, before you've added any other seasoning, before you've had a single bite of food. And here's what makes it worse. These cubes are 50% salt. Half the product is just pure sodium chloride. The other half, a mixture of cheap starches, yeast extract, and artificial colouring to make it look like beef. The study found that some stock cubes are made of 50% salt, with Aldi's Quick Show among the worst offenders. This isn't value. This is a health hazard dressed up in budget packaging. High salt intake leads to raised blood pressure, which dramatically increases your risk of heart disease and stroke. And Aldi is selling this to families who are trying to stretch their budgets, who trust that a major retailer wouldn't put dangerous levels of salt in a basic cooking ingredient. But they have, week after week, year after year. At number 6, we have another supermarket giant quietly selling dangerously salty products. It's Asda beef stock. Laboratory testing revealed that Asda's fresh beef stock contained 5 grams of salt per 500-gram packet. That might sound like it's spread out, but when you use stock, you're typically adding a significant portion to a single dish. What's particularly deceptive about Asda's approach is the packaging. It comes in fresh-looking packets that sit in the chilled section. The branding suggests quality, freshness, something closer to homemade. But flip it over and read the actual ingredient list. It's the same industrial formula as the dried products: salt, yeast extract, maltodextrin, caramel colouring, palm oil. The only difference is they've added water and stuck it in the fridge. They're charging you more. They're making it look premium, but you're getting the same ultra-processed formula with dangerously high salt levels. It's supermarket theatre at its finest. And like Aldi, Asda knows exactly what they're doing. They know that budget-conscious families will reach for their own brand products. They know people trust major retailers. They know most shoppers won't read the label properly or understand what those salt numbers actually mean. So they keep selling it because it's profitable, because people keep buying it, because nobody's stopping them. Coming in at number 5, we have a global brand that dominates supermarket shelves across the UK. It's Knorr. Knorr is owned by Unilever, one of the largest food corporations on the planet. They have the resources, they have the technology, they have the research capabilities to create genuinely good products. Instead, they've chosen to create products loaded with palm fat, artificial flavourings, and some Knorr products tested with salt levels as high as 4.66 grams per stock pot. Let's look at their beef gravy pot ingredients: water, starch, salt, sugar, flavourings, beef fat at just 3.5%, beef broth powder at only 2.3%, then a parade of additives: gelling agents including locust bean gum, xanthan gum and gellan gum, emulsifiers, corn oil, palm fat, sunflower seed oil. Notice what's missing? Actual beef. Real meat. Natural ingredients your grandmother would recognise. What you're getting is less than 6% actual beef product. The rest is water, starch and chemicals engineered to create the illusion of richness without the cost of real ingredients. And then there's the palm fat issue. Knorr uses palm oil in multiple products despite the devastating environmental impact. Rainforest destruction, habitat loss for endangered species, all so they can save pennies per unit on production costs. Knorr proves that big budgets and global reach don't guarantee quality. Sometimes they just guarantee better marketing to disguise inferior products. At number 4, we have a brand that breaks hearts, a name that's been in British kitchens since 1910, a product that soldiers ate in the trenches during World War I. It's OXO. OXO should have been different. With over a century of history, they had earned our trust. The OXO Tower on the Thames became a London landmark. The OXO family advertising campaign became part of British culture. But somewhere along the way, OXO stopped being about quality and became about cost-cutting. The modern OXO beef stock cube ingredient list reveals the truth. Wheat flour, salt, maize starch, yeast extract, then the killer blow. Flavour enhancers including monosodium glutamate and disodium guanylate. The beef content? A pitiful 4.5% beef fat and some dried beef bone stock. Let that sink in. A product called Beef Stock Cube contains less than 5% actual beef. The rest is just cheap fillers and chemical flavour enhancers designed to trick your brain into thinking you're tasting something real. And here's what really stings. OXO built its entire brand on the promise of nourishing, sustaining food. During wartime, they marketed it as essential nutrition for British troops. They positioned themselves as part of the nation's backbone. Now, they're owned by Premier Foods, the same company behind multiple product recalls and quality scandals, the same company that systematically stripped quality from British food staples while keeping the nostalgic branding that makes us trust them. OXO traded on history while abandoning the very principles that made them trustworthy in the first place. At number 3, we have Britain's most iconic gravy brand going through an identity crisis. It's Bisto Original Gravy Powder, specifically the versions produced before their recent formula changes. Bisto has dominated the UK gravy market for generations, commanding over 70% market share. The phrase, Bisto, became part of the national vocabulary. The Bisto kids became cultural icons. But long-time users have noticed something's changed, and they're not happy about it. Reviews from 2024 tell a consistent story. One customer living in New Zealand reported that Bisto granules now taste and smell like soap, forcing them to bin an entire cottage pie. Multiple UK customers report the flavour has become weaker, requiring nearly half a packet to achieve the consistency they used to get from a few spoonfuls. What happened? Bisto reformulated. They switched suppliers, they changed the ingredient ratios, all in the name of cost savings and shelf stability. The ingredient list for standard Bisto granules reveals the problem. Potato starch, maltodextrin, palm fat, salt, wheat flour, then artificial colouring in the form of ammonia caramel, sugar, flavourings and flavour enhancers, including monosodium glutamate and disodium 5' ribonucleotides. Where's the meat? Where's the real savoury depth that made Bisto famous? It's been replaced by chemical flavour enhancers and palm oil. Even worse, Bisto appears to be quietly pushing customers toward their more expensive granules by reducing availability of the traditional powder. Multiple reviews mention they can no longer find the larger powder packets, with the company claiming lack of demand. This is the classic corporate playbook. Degrade the original product, make it harder to find. Push customers toward the premium version that costs more but isn't actually better, just different. At number 2, we have the same trusted name, but this time for something far more serious than taste complaints. This is about safety. It's Bisto for chicken gravy granules. In 2015, Premier Foods recalled 50,000 tubs of Bisto for chicken gravy granules and reduced salt Bisto for chicken gravy granules after discovering they may contain dangerous metal fragments. Let me repeat that. Metal fragments in gravy that British families were pouring over their Sunday dinners. The fault occurred at the company's factory in Worksop, Nottinghamshire, where maintenance issues caused rubbing against metal bolts on the production line, creating metal shavings that contaminated the product. Premier Foods recalled 33,600 packs, though the majority were thought to have already been sold to consumers. Thousands of families potentially ate gravy containing metal particles, sharp, dangerous metal that could have caused serious internal injuries. The company called it a precautionary measure and apologised for any inconvenience. Inconvenience, as if the possibility of metal fragments in your food is merely an inconvenience and not a serious safety breach. But here's what makes this number 2 on our list. This wasn't an isolated incident. In 2020, Premier Foods had to recall Bisto original gravy powder sold in certain Asda stores because it contained undeclared milk, posing a serious risk to anyone with milk allergies. 2 major recalls in 5 years. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern. That's a company with quality control problems that keep endangering customers. And yet, Bisto remains the UK's number 1 gravy brand. Because people trust the name, because it's what their parents used, because the marketing is so strong that even product recalls can't shake customer loyalty. And here we are, the absolute worst offender. Number 1. And this might surprise you because these are supposed to be the good ones, the premium ranges, the products that cost more because they're supposed to be better. It's Tesco Finest and Sainsbury's Taste the Difference ready-made gravy products. These products represent everything wrong with modern British food in one convenient bottle. They're marketed as premium. The packaging looks sophisticated. The price point suggests quality. The labelling uses words like finest and taste the difference. But read the ingredients, it's the same formula as the budget versions, just with slightly better marketing. Water, modified starch, yeast extract, caramel colouring, flavour enhancers, palm oil, virtually no real meat content. Packed with salt and additives. The truly offensive part, they're charging you double or triple the price of standard gravy for essentially the same ultra-processed formula. They've added a few herbs to the ingredient list, used slightly better packaging, and marked up the price by 200%. Laboratory testing revealed that 99% of ready-made gravies would receive an amber or red traffic light warning for salt content, and less than half would meet Department of Health recommended targets. That includes these so-called premium ranges. This is the ultimate betrayal. When you buy budget supermarket products, you know what you're getting. You're making a conscious choice to save money, potentially at the expense of quality. But when you buy Finest or Taste the Difference, you're being deliberately misled. You're told you're buying something special, something better, something worth the extra money. Instead, you're buying the same industrial formula with fancier packaging. The supermarkets know most people won't read the label carefully. They know the premium branding makes people feel like they're making a better choice. They know they can charge more for essentially the same product. It's not just low quality, it's deception. It's contempt for customers who are trying to do the right thing by spending more on food. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Almost every major gravy brand in UK supermarkets is compromised. Whether it's excessive salt, metal contamination recalls, palm oil, MSG, or just pathetically low meat content, they're all cutting corners somewhere. But you have options. Real options. First, make your own gravy. I know. It sounds like effort, but it's actually incredibly simple. When you roast meat, don't throw away those pan juices. Add a splash of wine or stock, a spoonful of flour, let it bubble and reduce. That's proper gravy. Real ingredients, real flavour, no chemicals. If you must buy ready-made, look for brands that list actual meat content above 10%. Check the salt content. It should be below 1 gram per 100 millilitres. Avoid anything with palm oil. Avoid anything with flavour enhancers like MSG, monosodium glutamate, or disodium compounds. Better yet, buy quality stock cubes from ethical brands like Callow Organic Very Low Salt Range, which contains only 0.5 grams of salt per cube compared to the 5+ grams in conventional brands. Or look for stock pots from brands that prioritise real ingredients over chemical shortcuts. And please, for the love of proper British cooking, stop falling for premium range marketing. Tesco Finest and Sainsbury's Taste the Difference are not actually finest or different. They're the same formula in prettier packaging at inflated prices. The British public deserves real gravy made from real ingredients by companies that prioritise health over profit margins. Until we demand better, until we stop buying these inferior products, nothing will change. Check your cupboards tonight. If you've got any of these 8 brands, it's time to make a change. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments which gravy you've been using and whether you'll be switching. If you found this helpful, please subscribe and share it with anyone who still thinks instant gravy is harmless.